I'm Marnie Hughes, and this is Missing. Thank you for joining us. Each week, we feature a missing persons case from across the country, no matter their race, religion, background, or circumstances.
Imagine walking down a familiar road, your car breaking down on a route you have traveled 1,000 times, or simply going to bed in the safety of your own home. These are ordinary moments that, for most of us, pass without incident. But for some, these routine seconds became the threshold between presence and absence, the exact moment they stepped out of our world and into the unknown. What follows are 7 verified cases of people who vanished under circumstances that continue to perplex investigators and challenge our understanding of what is possible. In a modern world saturated with surveillance, GPS, and digital footprints, we like to believe that no one can truly disappear. These cases prove otherwise. These are not urban legends, they are real stories of real families still searching for the truth. Number 1. The Airport Runner. On June 30th, 2014, 28-year-old Lars Mittank traveled from Germany to the Golden Sands Resort in Varna, Bulgaria. It was his first trip outside his home country, a simple vacation with 5 close friends. The trip was unremarkable until July 6th, when Lars was involved in a minor physical altercation with other tourists over a football rivalry. The fight left him with a ruptured eardrum and an injured jaw. A local physician prescribed him an antibiotic called cefprozil, but advised him not to fly immediately due to the risks associated with cabin pressure. His friends had to return to Germany as scheduled, so Lars checked into a budget hotel near the airport to wait for clearance. Here, his behavior took a dark and sudden turn. His security footage from the hotel captured Lars hiding in elevators and leaving the building at midnight, only to return hours later in a state of visible agitation. He called his mother multiple times, whispering in a panicked tone that people were trying to kill him and begging her to cancel his credit cards. On the morning of July 8th, Lars arrived at Varna Airport. He left behind everything: his wallet, his mobile phone, his passport, and all his luggage. He ran at full speed through the terminal, dashed across the parking lot, scaled a 10-foot barbed wire fence, and vanished into a dense forest. Despite massive search efforts, he has never been seen again. While some suspect a rare psychotic reaction to his medication, the doctor noted Lars never actually filled the prescription. He simply ran into the trees and stepped out of existence. Number 2. The Boy Who Was Not. In the sweltering summer of 1912, the Dunbar family of Louisiana took a fishing trip to Swayze Lake. Their 4-year-old son, Bobby Dunbar, wandered away from their tent and vanished. The search was one of the largest in the state's history. Volunteers dragged the lake, set off dynamite to dislodge bodies from the lake bed, and even cut open alligators to see if the boy had been eaten. No trace of Bobby was found. 8 months later, a boy matching Bobby's description was found in Mississippi in the company of a traveling handyman named William Cantwell Walters. Walters insisted the boy's name was Charles Bruce Anderson, the son of a woman named Julia Anderson who worked for his family. The Dunbars traveled to identify the child. While early newspaper accounts were conflicting, some saying the boy recognized his mother instantly, others saying both parents hesitated, the court eventually ruled in the Dunbars' favor. Julia Anderson, a poor single mother, arrived to claim her son but lacked the money for a legal battle. She was dismissed as a woman of loose morals and forced to return home alone. And Walters was convicted of kidnapping and served time in prison. The boy lived his entire life as Bobby Dunbar, raised by the family and eventually having his own children. In 2004, nearly a century after the disappearance, Bobby's granddaughter, Margaret Dunbar Cutright, sought to resolve the family mystery through DNA testing. The results were a bombshell. The DNA proved conclusively that the man who lived his life as Bobby Dunbar was actually Bruce Anderson. The legal system had effectively kidnapped a child from a poor mother and handed him to a wealthy one to provide a convenient ending. To this day, the fate of the real Bobby Dunbar remains a mystery. Did he die in the lake that summer, or was he taken by someone who was never caught? Number 3. The vanishing student. On February 9, 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, did something uncharacteristic. She emailed her professors claiming there was a death in her family, a complete lie, and drove north into the White Mountains of New Hampshire. At approximately 7:27 in the evening, a local resident heard a crash and saw Maura's car stuck in a snowbank on a sharp turn of Route 112. A bus driver who lived nearby stopped to offer help. Maura, appearing shaken but not visibly injured, declined his help and asked him not to call the police, claiming she had already called for roadside assistance. Knowing there was no cell service in that area, the bus driver went home and called the authorities anyway. And police arrived at the scene at 7:46 in the evening, just 19 minutes after the initial crash and less than 10 minutes after the bus driver had spoken to her. The car was locked, the airbags had deployed, a box of wine had spilled inside. But Maura was gone. The window for her disappearance was impossibly small. There were no footprints in the deep snow leading into the woods, and no other cars had been seen stopping. It was as if she had been plucked from the road. Over the last 20 years, the FBI and local authorities have conducted dozens of searches using cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar, and aerial surveillance. In 2016, a lead surfaced about a rusty 1970s-era Lincoln Continental seen in the area, but it led nowhere. Maura remains a ghost, her case becoming one of the most scrutinized mysteries of the internet age. Number 4. The 911 call from nowhere. On August 8, 2013, 26-year-old Brandon Lawson left his home in San Angelo, Texas, following an argument with his girlfriend. He was headed toward his father's house 3 hours away. At approximately 12:50 in the morning, Brandon called 911 from a remote stretch of U.S. Highway 277. The call is haunting and fragmented. Brandon sounds out of breath and terrified, telling the dispatcher, "I am in the middle of a field. Pulled some guys over. Right here going toward Abilene." He mentioned he had run out of gas, but also repeatedly stated that he was being chased and was bleeding. Shortly after, he spoke to his brother Kyle on the phone. Kyle arrived at Brandon's truck around 1:10 in the morning and found a sheriff's deputy already there. During a final brief call, Brandon told his brother, "I can see you, I am right here." But neither the deputy nor Kyle could see anyone in the dark expanse of the Texas scrubland. Brandon's truck was abandoned, but there was no sign of a struggle. For over 8 years, the case remained a total void. Finally, in February of 2022, a search party found clothing and human remains in a brush-heavy area near where the truck had been left. DNA testing in late 2024 confirmed the remains were Brandon's. While his body was found, the mystery of his final moments, what he saw in that field, and why he felt he was being hunted, died with him. Number 5. The girl on Valentine's Day. On the morning of February 14, 2000, Asha Degree went to wake her 9-year-old daughter, Asha, for school in Shelby, North Carolina. The bed was empty. Asha, a shy and well-behaved girl who was terrified of the dark and thunderstorms, had vanished in the middle of a rainy night. Investigation revealed that Asha had packed a book bag with several outfits and left the house between 2:30 and 4 in the morning. 2 motorists reported seeing a small girl walking along Highway 18 in the pouring rain. One witness turned their car around to check on her, but the girl fled into the dark woods. 18 months later, a construction worker 30 miles away found Asha's backpack buried in a plastic bag. Inside were items that did not belong to her, including a concert t-shirt for the band New Kids on the Block and a library book from her school that she had not checked out. For decades, the trail went cold. However, in September 2024, the FBI and local authorities executed search warrants on multiple properties belonging to a local family. Using advanced DNA analysis on the items found in the backpack, investigators now believe Asha was a victim of foul play by individuals who were teenagers at the time. While the search for her remains continues, the question of why a 9-year-old would leave her home in a storm remains one of the most chilling aspects of the case. Number 6. The Walter Collins case. The 1928 disappearance of 9-year-old Walter Collins in Los Angeles remains a landmark case of police corruption and tragedy. After Walter went missing from a cinema, the LAPD faced immense pressure to solve the crime. 5 months later, they claimed to have found him in Illinois. When Christine Collins met the boy at a public reunion, she immediately told the officers, "That is not my son." The police, desperate for a win, told her she was confused by trauma and forced her to take the boy home. When she returned days later with dental records proving the boy was an imposter, the police captain had her committed to a psychiatric ward to silence her. The boy eventually admitted he was Arthur Hutchins, a runaway who lied to get a free trip to Hollywood. While Christine was locked away, a serial killer named Gordon Stewart Northcott was arrested for murdering several children on a ranch in Wineville. Investigators believed Walter was a victim, but Northcott's mother claimed the boy had actually escaped. Christine spent the rest of her life searching for Walter, successfully suing the city for her false imprisonment, but never finding her son. Her story reminds us that sometimes the people meant to find the missing are the ones who ensure they stay lost. Number 7. The Watcher in the Woods. In the isolated sub-zero wilderness of Nome, Alaska, disappearances are often blamed on the brutal environment. But the 24 disappearance of 37-year-old Rick Hills defied all logic. Rick was a capable electrician who lived in a small cabin on the outskirts of town. When he failed to show up for work, friends found his cabin door wide open. Inside, the lights were on, the coffee pot was full, and his phone and keys were on the table. Outside, a light dusting of snow had fallen, but there were no footprints leading away from the cabin. It was as if he had been lifted directly out of his home. Days later, a hiker miles away found a single sock and a crumpled Polaroid photo. The photo was a shot of Rick's cabin taken from the forest. In the reflection of the living room window, a face was visible. Witnesses who saw the photo before it was taken into evidence by the FBI described the face as off, too pale, with eyes that were too wide and a mouth slightly open. Local legends speak of the Watcher, a presence that has been linked to over 20 disappearances in the area over the last decade. The FBI officially attributed the disappearances to harsh weather and alcohol, but they could never explain why a seasoned Alaskan would walk out into a freezing night barefoot and without a coat. These 7 cases represent only a fraction of the thousands of people who remain missing worldwide. What makes them so disturbing is not just the lack of answers, but the way these individuals seem to slip through the cracks of reality itself. Despite our cameras and our satellites, there are still places where the shadows are deep enough to swallow someone whole. For the families of Lars, Maura, Asha, and the others, these are not just mysteries or creepy stories. They are open wounds. Every year that passes without a lead is a year of agonizing silence. Yet these stories serve as a reminder that our safety is often an illusion and that life can change in the span of a single, unexplained heartbeat. If you have any information regarding these cases or any other missing person, please contact the FBI or your local law enforcement. Every small detail matters. Thank you for joining us at Mysteries Uncovered Files. We are dedicated to bringing light to the cases the world has forgotten. If you want to continue exploring the unknown, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. Don't go into the woods alone, and always keep your eyes on the shadows. You never know who might be watching.